was silenced. Now he has coronavirus. On December 30th, Li Wenliang dropped a bombshell in his medical school alumni group on the popular Chinese messaging app WeChat. 7 patients from a local seafood market had been diagnosed with a SARS-like illness and quarantined in his hospital. He explained that, according to a test he had seen, the illness was a coronavirus, a large family of viruses that includes severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. Memories of SARS run deep in China, where a pandemic in 2003 killed hundreds following a government cover-up. "I only wanted to remind my university classmates to be careful," he said. Li, a 34-year-old doctor working in Wuhan, the central Chinese city at the epicenter of the deadly coronavirus outbreak, told his friends to warn their loved ones privately. But within hours, screenshots of his messages had gone viral, without his name being blurred. "When I saw them circulating online, I realized that it was out of my control and I would probably be punished," Li said. He was right. Soon after he posted the message, Li was accused of rumor mongering by the Wuhan police. He was one of several medics targeted by police for trying to blow the whistle on the deadly virus in the early weeks of the outbreak. The virus has since claimed at least 425 lives and sickened more than 20,000 people globally, including Li. From an intensive care bed in hospital, Li told he was confirmed Saturday to have contracted the virus. His diagnosis has sparked outrage across China, where a backlash is growing against state censorship around the illness and an initial delay in warning the public about the deadly virus. Summoned by the police. On the same day in December that Li messaged his friends, an emergency notice was issued by the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission, informing the city's medical institutions that a series of patients from the Huanan seafood wholesale market had an unknown pneumonia. The notice came with a warning: any organizations or individuals are not allowed to release treatment information to the public without authorization. In the early hours of December 31st, Wuhan's health authorities held an emergency meeting to discuss the outbreak. Afterwards, Li was summoned by officials at his hospital to explain how he knew about the cases, according to state-run newspaper Beijing Youth Daily. Later that day, the Wuhan authorities announced the outbreak and alerted the World Health Organization. But Li's troubles did not end there. On January 3rd, Li was called to a local police station and reprimanded for spreading rumors online and severely disrupting social order over the message he sent in the chat group. In that message, Li said the patients had been diagnosed with SARS, citing the test result that showed the pathogen tested positive for the SARS virus with a high confidence coefficient, a measure indicating the accuracy of the test. He clarified in a subsequent message that the virus was actually a different type of coronavirus, but the screenshot of his first message had already spread online. Li had to sign a statement, acknowledging his misdemeanor and promising not to commit further unlawful acts. He feared he was going to be detained. "My family would worry sick about me if I lose my freedom for a few days," he told over a text message on WeChat. He was coughing too much and breathing too poorly to speak over the phone. Luckily, Li was allowed to leave the police station after an hour. On January 10th, after unwittingly treating a patient with the Wuhan coronavirus, Li started coughing and developed a fever the next day. He was hospitalized on January 12th. In the following days, Li's condition deteriorated so badly that he was admitted to the intensive care unit and given oxygen support. On February 1st, he tested positive for coronavirus, playing down the outbreak. From the start, the Chinese authorities wanted to control information about the outbreak, silencing any voices that differed with their narrative, regardless of whether they were telling the truth. On January 1st, the Wuhan police announced it had taken legal measures against 8 people who had recently published and shared rumors online about the pneumonia-like illness and caused adverse impacts on society. In the 2 weeks that followed, the Wuhan Municipal Health Commission remained the only source for updates on the developments of the outbreak. Chinese scientists identified the pathogen as a new coronavirus on January 7th. For about a week, no new confirmed cases were announced. Health authorities maintained there was no obvious evidence for human-to-human transmission, no infection of healthcare workers, and that the outbreak was preventable and controllable. On January 31st, Li wrote in a post on Weibo how he felt during that period. I was wondering why the government's official notices were still saying there was no human-to-human transmission and there were no healthcare workers infected. Public uproar. By late January, the Wuhan government's mishandling of the outbreak was becoming well understood in China. Many online thought of the group of 8 rumormongers, saying their early warnings could have saved hundreds of lives. The state-run newspaper Beijing Youth Daily interviewed Li and the article went viral. The piece was censored within hours, but the uproar remained. As public anger mounted, China's Supreme Court on January 28 criticized the Wuhan police for punishing the rumormongers. It might have been a fortunate thing for containing the new coronavirus if the public had listened to this rumor at the time and adopted measures such as wearing masks, strict disinfection, and avoiding going to the wildlife market, the Supreme Court commentary said. On Saturday, another rumormonger came forward with her story in the Chinese press. In the message, Xie relayed a warning from fellow doctors about an infectious disease: don't go to Huanan's seafood wholesale market in the near future. Several people were found to have contracted an unknown pneumonia similar to SARS there. Today our hospital has received multiple patients from the market. Everyone please remember to wear masks and ventilate properly. Now recovering in a quarantine ward, Li said he was not sure if he was one of the 8 rumormongers. But he felt relieved after reading the Supreme Court commentary, taking it as a sign that the central government is against giving him a harsh punishment. On Li's Weibo, tens of thousands have left comments thanking him for speaking out and wishing him a speedy discovery. Dr. Li, you're a good doctor with conscience. I hope you stay safe and sound, read one of the top-rated comments. If Wuhan had paid attention to his warning back then and taken active preventive measures, wrote another Weibo user, where we stand now a month later could be a completely different picture.